Cool. Hi, everybody. It's fantastic to see so many people here, and it's great to see you all. I was giving out fish stickers earlier. If you want a sticker, come find me afterwards outside. I have some more. So, um, but yeah, I will start off with a quick introduction of who I am because I'm sure not everybody knows. So I am Nina, Nina Kos. I'm a technical artist. I have 3 years in the industry now. So I have 2 studios and 2 released games. British Polish. I also really like fish, so you might see a theme coming in this talk. Fish is kind of like my hobby passion outside of game art, so I really enjoy that. Yeah, I studied the game art at the MU in 2021. Then I was at the art studios for a year and a bit, and I've been at Sumo Digital for over 2 years now. So, working on a little game called Stampede Racing Royale, which is on my T-shirt. Um, so initially, I wanted to do actually environment art. Funnily enough, I started as a kind of traditional artist, so I did a lot of gouache. I did a lot of colored pencils, and like drawings and paintings and things like that. Then I fell into digital art, and I found kind of modding games, and I really enjoyed that. And I really enjoyed kind of making effects and falling into kind of tech art by default, just because there's so many cool effects, especially with fish and things like that. So I really enjoyed it. So these are some of my personal projects from the last 2 years. So the Neo Tokyo project was for ArtStation Challenge, koi ponds, and a little jellyfish. I have more on my ArtStation, but these are just some. So at work, this is what I'm working on. This is Stampede Racing Real, which very happy to say about an hour ago we released. So that's great. um, yeah, I couldn't talk about it all weekend, so I'm really excited I can talk about it now. But I do a lot of lighting. I did the lighting on this map and that map, and I did all of these screenshots. I did various effects and various shaders and things like that. So do a bit of everything within technical art, including tooling and things like that. So really enjoy kind of the stylized, colorful world of Stampede, which, by the way, 60-player racing game, which is kind of like Fall Guys / Mario Kart, which is really fun. So uh, big question: what is technical art? Because I'm sure that's like nobody understands really what we do, and it's even if you ask many technical artists, it's probably you're gonna have multiple different answers, unfortunately. So, big disclaimer first. I, probably not gonna cover everything, and like you might be doing something completely different at your own studio. So just keep that in mind. Don't don't correct me afterwards because there's no right answer to this question, unfortunately. So big problem. Nobody understands what we do. Makes it hard to hire. Makes it hard to train. We did different studios end up with completely different people for technical artists. So what does this mean? I This is how I like to define it, and you'll see the fish bucket. It's 5 different roles in one bucket, ready. So taking this further, you have some teams do only tooling, some do only visuals, some do animation, some do support kind of role, which I'll get into that a little bit more. But you also have like the giant thing of optimization, and other is all the other things that you might end up doing anyway. Um, because within technical art there's so many different things that you could do, and you end up with many different tasks that like some other people in the studio might not want to do. So diving into this further, within tools you have things like engine tools, so Python blueprints, software tools, DCC, which means making tools within like 3ds Max or Maya, things like that, Blender. Procedural tooling, so Houdini, PCG, geometry nodes, anticipating issues and like fixing things. So it's making the artist's jobs easier. So if there's some kind of workflow that takes way too long to do, you will find the solution and make the tooling to make that process quicker and easier, more efficient. Um, on the visual side, you have obviously shaders, which is huge within technical art. I think that's probably the thing that people think most of when they think of technical art, but it also involves other pieces. You can do shaders within code or within materials, shader graphs in Unity, things like that. It can include lighting and it can include VFX. Now, not all studios will be putting this onto technical artists. I know for my current studio, our tech art team does the lighting, but we have a separate VFX person. So I know at other studios you have the lighting person be its own role as well. So it really depends on how a studio is set up and if you have specific people for that. Also overlaps with tools, so you can make a lot of visual things with PCG and Houdini and things like that. Make a lot of like scattering tools or procedural tools for foliage, things like that. There's a lot of overlap between all of these categories. Optimization, which is often overlooked, especially by students. They don't really realize that like this is a huge part of technical art if you get into it. On every project that I've been on, it's always been a massive part of it, and like you have to be prepared for that. So profiling, performance, frame debugging, culling, getting stuff, making sure it renders into a distance. Loading is huge. Texture streaming. So if you're working on an open world, it's really important that like chunks of memory don't load in too quickly or too slowly, and they don't take up too much memory. Making sure all other technical art aspects are also optimized. So if you're making, for example, a shader, you have to consider, is the shader going to be too heavy for all the other shaders in the scene? And making sure it runs really well. So animation, this can also be its own role, but sometimes it's included within a technical artist title. So you have like rigging, skinning, animation tooling, cinematics, things like that. On our current studio at Simulation, we have our own technical art animation department. So that's a separate role. But I know at the last studio I was at, that was included within our team as well. And then support. This is very overlooked. It's really important that like technical art kind of sits in the middle of all the other disciplines. So you need to be able to help the rest of the team. It's more collaborative than people realize. And yeah, I will talk about more of this later. There's more. In addition, you can also make assets, make screenshots, cinematics. So on Stampede, I showed you earlier those screenshots. Those were all set up by me. So they needed somebody to make very kind of artistic and a set of screenshots, but they also needed someone who knew how to use Unity really well. So that kind of random tasks can fall under us as well. Helping with gameplay features, often like you end up helping design other disciplines. And anything else really. If they can't find anybody who has the right skills, they'll probably fall into technical art, unfortunately. So how does this work in actual game studios? This is an example of one studio. So you can have like different categories. So you can have one person working on tooling, one person working on visuals, and one person working on animation. So this is very similar to how we have it set up at my studio. Another team, I recently spoke to a different team that has all the visual tasks assigned to like their environment team. And pretty much the technical art team is entirely tooling. So they're all just making DCC tools or making tools for engines. And like this can especially happen if you have proprietary engines and things like that. Another one, you have one small tech art team. This happens kind of in smaller studios. You often have like one or two people, and you have them doing everything that is possible. So all of the categories mentioned and more. So what is technical art? I say someone in between code and art who's good at both, a catch-all. But obviously, this is, yeah, obviously everybody has a different answer. There was recently a LinkedIn post by somebody who asked to define technocore, and you had about 50 different technocore artists in the comments, each saying different things. So yeah, nobody really knows. But I hope it gave you a little bit of a clear answer. And also, that's the pile of optimization that happens on every project. So you might be thinking this is very complicated. So how did we get here? How did we evolve into technical art? In the early days, it was mostly generalists, and people, artists, kind of started off as doing everything within technical art. So by a couple, like by the time we specialized, people specialized into like environment, character art, and animation and things like that. And technical artists are kind of like the catch-all role, and they stayed kind of the same. So they're still doing kind of everything that's needed, and all the kind of shader and engine work. So it's kind of like a leftover role from one of the very early roles in games. In right now, like it's getting more complicated and more technical. So every time, like we have so much innovation from like Unreal and Unity and things, and with each new system, you kind of add more and more complexity, and you need way more technical kind of expertise to be able to kind of solve those problems. So it's not as simple as just basic shaders anymore. Like you have to have shaders that work correctly on all platforms, and using all the new tools. So obviously that requires more work and like more complicated work. You also have bigger teams these days, so you need more pipeline savings. Like um, if you have a very long workflow for your environment artists, obviously that like limits uh, how how much you can make, and also it kind of costs money, right? So um, it's really important to have those kind of pipeline fixes in place there. There's also been a recent big push towards like procedural art, so Houdini, PCG, Blender, geometry nodes. This is kind of a trend I'm seeing within technical art, where it's getting a lot more procedural, and games are getting more kind of generated instead of just made statically. So the pathway into technical art, it used to be that you had to start off as an artist, and then you went into technical art. It's now possible to kind of start off technical art, going straight from uni into the game industry. Obviously, not everybody will be able to do this, because like it's also possible to start with an environment artist, but that's a big change since the early days as well. So technical art is a role that evolves with technology and the teams around it. So how it functions in the teams, you might be thinking, it's a kind of off to the side, and like all these other disciplines are off somewhere else, and technical art is in the corner, right? But in reality, it's a lot more like this. And technical art kind of talks to each of the disciplines. So like for environment art, obviously you want good tooling. Same for character art. For code, you might be helping the coders with artistic kind of side of things, and with design, you might be helping with gameplay features, or like fixing things, fixing pipelines. QA is the same, where you're obviously helping with bugs, but also helping with pipelines and making sure it kind of runs very smoothly, right? So it very much sits in the middle of production teams, and it's very difficult to run a team without it. Without them, so you won't have anybody to troubleshoot. You'll be wasting a lot of time, processes that could be sped up. No one dedicated to fixing kind of major performance issues. A lot of the time, what happens is you have teams that you get into kind of the middle of the production, and then you end up, oh, we're not meeting targets, and the game is running very slow. We need a bunch of technical artists to come and fix it, which happens quite often actually, where you have like major performance issues midway through development. I don't think any kind of team is immune to that kind of thing. also limited to simple effects. Artists don't usually delve it deeper, but sometimes they do. Sometimes they're like, it's not what they're interested in, or they don't want to do that. So it's much better to have somebody dedicated to that. So communication is important. That's where the support comes back. Someone who creates your plans will be the person to fix it. So you definitely want somebody there to kind of overlook the processes. Tech art is very interconnected with all the other roles and very much oversees everything else, um, as I've shown earlier. And it's wanting to help others and having the patience for it will go a long way. And I find that like the more like friendly and helpful you are, the easier it is for the entire team to work with you. Because nobody really wants the technical artist who kind of sits on the side and like isn't really nice, and that can happen unfortunately. But I hope like the industry is growing way more friendly and way more connected going forward. It's really important to seek skill set, not software. A lot of the software across kind of technical art can be translated between different engines and different software. It's all kind of the same. Like if you know one, you probably can jump into the other within like a week or two. So when I was helping to hire for technical art, it was really important that we kind of found the people who were kind of problem solving and also problem prevention. So again, kind of using the tooling to kind of fix problems, making sure pipelines run very quickly. Also willingness to learn, because tech art is such a massive subject that you always have to learn new things. And even in your spare time, it's really important to learn constantly, explore new approaches, even if like your studio doesn't use it. Maybe you can learn something from other technical artists that you know. Also, ability to collaborate and like help others around you is really important. Great. So you understand what technical art is. How does that look in practice? I'm gonna show a quick example. These are a personal project, Neo Tokyo, that I did last year. I made these tiny holographic fish that swim around. So I won't dive too deep into it, but I'll give a quick example. For this little fish, you have like the whole body movement, which kind of wiggles like this. And you also have the fin movement, which goes up and down. You probably can't see that very well, but there is a mouth movement as well, so it opens and closes. And also, you want a transparent shader over the top of it, and moving within the tanks itself. So we have to consider, we have to make it as natural as possible. The fins need to be very flat. Any geometry in the back will kind of poke through and not look correct because it is a transparent object. All parameters should be editable and very easy to read. So if another artist comes back and looks at your work, then you need to make sure it's very well presented, well documented, and also if there is any documentation, you should write that obviously on Confluence or whatever you're using, if it requires it. Big one is performance limits. So can we go heavier on the shader since they will be the smaller to relative to screen size? That's entirely up to your project and what your performance is. If you have like way too much transparency already, then you need to go lighter. If you don't, then you could probably get away with like some small transparent objects. It's all relative to screen size as well. So it's important to keep in mind kind of your parameters and your end platform and what you're going to be using. So this is what it ended up looking like, the graph. So you have all the dots, you have the body, which is the movement of the body, the fins, the mouth. The Fresnel is just shader over the top of it. You have the colors, and then it all combines into the end. So even with a simple shader, we have to consider a lot of different options and a lot of different things. So optimizations within the context of the project that you're making, usability by other artists. So is the shader intuitive? Is it easy to use? Can we limit parameters to easy ranges? So don't just give the artist like a free slider that goes to infinity. If the parameter is only using 0 to 1, then limit that to a slider that goes 0 to 1. And then it's really simple and like, you know they're not going to break it, essentially. Documentation for future work, making sure it's annotated and well documented. So, in conclusion, tech art is difficult to explain. There's so many different roles. I hope I've explained it well, but I'm sure there will be some comments later. There's so many people as well saying like maybe we should split technicore into different roles themselves. We should be more descriptive on it. We'll see how that goes over the next couple of years, but I am seeing some people like title themselves, like for example, environment technical art or visual technical art or tools technical art. So that's kind of what we're seeing in the future. It's constantly changing, so it's a role that constantly evolves. The teams around it and the changes, it's very interconnected. So skills like communication and problem solving are way more important than people think. It's very overlooked. So that's pretty much it. Thank you. Yeah. Do rate the talk in the email. I believe you'll get a little email. And also, yeah, if anybody wants stickers, then I'll come around afterwards outside. So thank you so much again. Yeah. Oh, and also questions. I'm sorry. Yes. Does anybody have any questions?
Hi there. Thanks for the talk. Yeah, you went through everything. I'm a technical art myself, and
Nice.
you've explained the hands-on side of it very, very well. I just wanted to kind of ask your thoughts on the career progression of a technical artist. I mean, what we've talked there about is what you expect sort of a day-to-day or a senior technical artist would do. What's your thoughts on the value of technical art within studio leadership?
Yeah, I'm probably not the best person to ask this because I'm a mid-level myself. But I think it's really important to have like really diverse kind of set of technical artists, and like you have all the skills within that. I currently work within a lead artist, and then I have a principal technical artist. I think we're kind of seeing a mix of all people at different studios. Sometimes you only have like a principal, sometimes you have a lead technical artist. It entirely depends on how big the studio is, I think.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you for your talk. I wanted to ask, for an artist, what sort of things would you recommend for learning technical art?
Yeah.
Coming from like a just art background.
Yeah, so I actually have 2 blogs written on this on ArtStation. So I have kind of what technical art is, and also how to get into technical art and kind of example projects. I would say on the basis, I would say just getting kind of very familiar with the workflow and also the tooling and kind of shaders. You only have to have like a few examples of projects to really get into it. I think the blogs might be very helpful in that case. Any other questions?
Hello, thank you for the talk. I wonder why you didn't include the UI in this.
Yeah, it's a good point. It actually comes onto other things, and like I know that some kind of studios have like a dedicated UI technical artist. I've seen that before. For me, it's not something I'm very familiar with, just because we have a UI department that's by itself. So I didn't include that, but obviously that comes under the other things that you need to be able to do. So yeah, good point. Any other questions?
Hi. Oh, hello. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for your talk. Would you say it's easier to get into tech art from an artist background or a programming background?
Oh, that's a good question. Obviously, I am from the art background. You kind of need a bit of both anyway to be able to work in technical art. I've seen both. I think it's easier to teach the programming side afterwards, learning on the basis of kind of artistic side of it. But you obviously don't need that for all technical art roles. So you obviously kind of need a bit of both. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, Nina. Thanks
Hi.
for the talk. Could you talk a little bit more about how you tackle optimization and sort of your pipeline and what you do at Sumo?
Yeah, sure thing. So our game Stampede, it's using certain maps. So like we have very set maps. It's not open world, so it's very easy to load them in. But we do have very kind of strict budget when it comes to platforms or like low end hardware. So we recently went through kind of optimization on all of the kind of the assets and making sure kind of Unity calls them correctly when you go out of view and like frustum calling. And also optimization on assets, so making sure everything has loads and things like that. Frame, we do a lot of like frame debugging and like making sure there's nothing in there that takes up way too much memory or like frame time. We have very strict budgets for shaders, so we don't use way too many texture maps. Like we keep shaders to the very bare minimum. So we have like some water shaders, some decals and things like that, but that's about it. Because it's really important as well if you have like a 60-player game. There's a lot of objects on screen. There's a lot of characters. It's really important to not overdo it, especially because like the memory side of it and like all the characters will take up a lot of energy already. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just a quick follow-on question. Just
Yeah.
in terms of like authoring shaders, do you see the shader graph and sort of generated shaders being sort of something that the studio is moving toward in sort of with constrained platforms like mobile devices, or do you see more handwritten shaders sort of in your experience?
I'd say it depends on the studio. We do a lot of shader graph in Unity. At my previous job, I did like Unreal Engine shaders and things like that. I think there's definitely good solutions for both. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for coming.